Hi, my name is Kayla. This is Brittany. That's Jessica, and this is Austin. And our fraud is about Systemax. So, who are the Fiorentino brothers? Carl and Gilbert Fiorentino are two brothers out of Coral Gable, an area outside of Miami, Florida. And they founded the company Tiger Direct in 1989, which is a company that does direct online and catalog retailer of computer and consumer electronics. Tiger Direct was then acquired by Systemax in 1996. Systemax is an American company out of New York that sells computers, computer supplies, consumer electronics, industrial products through multiple e-commerce retailers and websites, as well as relationship marketers and direct mail catalogs. It was founded in 1939 and generated $3.6 billion in revenue in 2010. So the roles of Gilbert and Carl. Gilbert was the director and CEO of the technology product group of Tiger Direct, and Carl was a former president of Tiger Direct, which was a subsidiary of Systemax. And as senior executives of Tiger Direct, their responsibilities were for purchasing and sourcing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of consumer products and computer supplies for Systemax.
So obviously these are two individuals that are high up in their respective companies. So they were in good position to commit fraud, and the different types of fraud that they committed, they were involved with misappropriation of assets and corruption by receiving kickbacks and by fraudulently filling out forms. For the misappropriation of assets, they stole company merchandise that was used to market the company, and this was hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise for their own benefit. So a lot of technology equipment, computers and whatnot. And this happened between 2006 and 2010, so it happened for a number of years. And the major part of this fraud was the kickbacks that they received. They received, at times they received, it was almost like compensation from suppliers. They would receive $5,000 to $10,000 per month from certain suppliers. Lots of times they also got into the position, they got arrogant enough that they would demand a kickback from these suppliers. They would demand payments, otherwise they mentioned that they would not do business with them. Overall, it's estimated that they obtained about $11 million worth of kickbacks and whatnot. And this happened in multiple different locations. At times, it was stated that they received like $15,000 worth of gold coins in a bag from a supplier in a parking lot at Tiger Direct. And other times they had the suppliers directly deliver things to their $11 million mansion. This came in the forms of gold, cash, furniture, and other commodity merchandise like that. Involving the corruption, they had transactions that were related party transactions involving other companies they had interest in, and they gave those companies favorable deals. They also signed documents from the internal auditors claiming that they didn't know of any fraud in the company. And they also violated the SOX at the time, that a lot of forms that were required by internal audit and external auditors to give to higher up management, they filled those out incorrectly. And having constantly, they would review the 10Ks filled by the company, and knowingly they would sign these 10Ks with knowing that interest and earnings were understated. They also made false and misleading statements to the auditors, as mentioned before, and they also falsified their tax returns. None of these kickbacks, stolen merchandise, they didn't include any of them on their tax returns, and purposely left out other parts of their income.
So with their lifestyle, they had a very extravagant living. They had yachts and exotic cars, and as like Austin was saying, they received a lot of kickbacks. And one of the other things is they were working with certain people instead of finding the best prices that they could have to actually help their company. Which all of this caught the internal whistleblower's eye, basically. And then they let Systemax know. And then after that, Systemax decided to do an audit. And when they were doing that, they found that there was actually fraud going on. And they filed a 10K just saying like there was some fraud going and they were trying to figure out what was the extent of it. And then after they completed their investigation, they filed a 8K which stated that they were going to be putting Gilbert on administrative leave until they completed everything else. Then that's what started the SEC's investigation in 2011, and they went through everything and they found that there was a lot of things that were not being stated and that they had conflict of interest questionnaires, but they never said that anything was going on. It was perfect, no problem. So after that, the SEC determined that there was fraud too.
So we'll move on to the prosecution. In November of 2014, the Fiorentino brothers were charged with accepting more than $9 million in kickbacks and possibly millions from other vendors. The FBI also has some charges against them for tax evasion for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and especially for the gold coins. That's what they were very interested in. They pleaded guilty in December of 2014, Carl to fraud, conspiracy, and tax evasion, and Gilbert just to tax evasion, or conspiracy. Gilbert requested an alternate sentence because he has a substance abuse problem, so he was trying to say that he shouldn't have been held accountable for his conspiracy charges because he had this problem where he was drinking up to 8 bottles of alcohol a week, and so his lawyers have requested that he is in a substance abuse program in prison. The sentencing took place on March 3rd, and Carl got a sentence of over 6 years, and Gilbert was sentenced to 5 years. And the restitution hearing will be held in April of this year.